Hey everyone, Crow back again with another Zaccaria Pinball video and another top 10 list. This time we're looking at what I feel are my top 10 EM tables. And what I've done is I've actually gone through and I replayed all of these EM tables again just to refresh my memory on them. I've ranked them all. And yeah, what I'll do is I'll kind of talk for a little bit on each one from 10 on up to 1. But since there are only 14 tables here, I thought I might as well talk about the ones that didn't make the top 10. So we will actually just start with that. And the first one at the bottom of the list was this one. It was, this is Granada. And yeah, this is easily my least favorite of the whole group. And that's primarily because of a couple things. You got the tiny flippers here. And then you've got, it makes it very difficult to aim for things over here and over here. And then you on top of that, you've got to hit these whole row of targets here in order to like this. And even when you hit that, it's only worth 1,000 points, which coincidentally happens to be the same amount of points as the in lane here. So it seems like a whole lot of work for very little reward. And the cherry on top is that the ball very easily shoots in the out lanes anyway. So that was that's why that one didn't make the top 10. This one here is Top Hand, and this could have easily been on the top 10, but there is a major flaw with this table, I feel. And I like the idea of having to hit all these targets and light all of this up and then getting an extra ball or bonus here when you do that and resetting everything and doing it again. The problem here is that this target here, this red J and this black A here, they're very difficult to hit from the flipper position. You kind of almost have to have a bounce through here and bounce up to hit these. Because what winds up happening is you get every single target except for maybe this one or maybe even both. And you wind up shooting for them for a long time, not hitting anything, not getting anywhere, not getting any points. And it just winds up being a little bit frustrating. So that's why this one didn't make the list. Next up, we got this one, which is Moonflight. And honestly, I really didn't have any problems with this one. It just didn't make the top 10. It just seemed a lot of work to spell Orbit or even get your bonus up to get the double bonus here. So it's just a lot of work again. I've never actually spelled Orbit, I think, even with 5-ball. And yeah, I didn't mention it, but I usually play EMs on 5-ball because I think that was pretty much standard at the time these EM tables came out. Usually it's 5-ball. And so yeah, it was just like a whole lot of work, and I've never actually spelled Orbit, so it just didn't make my top 10. And then this one, which just barely didn't make my top 10, is Universe. The reason I think this wound up not being in the top 10 is because you got a whole very, very short area here. You've got this big block here. You've got to try and shoot around, maybe even to try and get up to the hole here, which is very difficult to do in order to get the bonus value all the way to the top, which I coincidentally have happened to do here. But again, some of these targets here, you hit them and either bounces out to the out lanes or right down the middle. So it's a very iffy table. So those were the tables that didn't make it. Let's start out with my top 10. Well, number 10. So we'll get to that right now. All right, sitting in my number 10 spot is Red Show. This actually just barely eked out Universe, I think. Basically, you've got these row targets here and a row of targets here. As you get each row, basically this lights up, and when it's lit, you get 50,000 points, which is quite a lot of points for this table. But also, as you hit this target, this target, this target, this target, these lights kind of creep up. They get worth more and more points. And then when you get the red light and you hit it, you get an extra ball, but you get only one extra ball per ball, so you can't do it multiple times per ball and just rack up a whole lot of extra balls. But you could do it once per ball if you're good enough to do it, because this all resets after each ball. But yeah, I just like going for these targets and getting the big rewards for the 50,000. I think the odd thing is that if you get this lane or this lane, this lights up anyway. I could be wrong about that. I might be thinking of another table. But yeah, Red Show, it's at number 10 on my list. At number 9, I've got Lucky Fruit. And this is just a really simple, relaxing table to play, I feel. You've got you know, 4 sets of 4 targets. You got A's, you got B's, you got C's, you got D's. Each one of them represents one of these fruits here. And basically, if you take care of all these targets, this lights up in the middle. You get 50,000 points for hitting it, which is, again, quite a lot of points for this table. Now, I might be mistaken if, you know, the same thing might be with Red Show that is on this table. And I know for sure on this table that if you get either this lane or this lane, this light that lights up too. So it seems kind of weird that you could get the same reward for just hitting the rollover as you do for hitting all of the targets, because obviously one is a lot simpler to do than the other. But still, it's just a nice relaxing table, I think, and you can easily aim for all of these targets from either flipper. So I think it's fun in that respect. So that's why Lucky Fruit is in my number 9 spot. And in my number 8 spot is Tropical. Had to think about that for a second. But I like this table just because of how unique and unusual it is. Basically, as you hit bumpers and rollovers, this little blue dot kind of bounces around to different numbers. And depending on the number it's at, if you hit one of these targets, it'll light that number if it's not already lit. And if you get 3 in a row, you can hit a target to get an extra ball. And again, only 1 extra ball per ball. But these all stay lit as you lose the balls, so you could keep continuing on and on. The only downside is that when you get down to very few numbers, like 2 or 3 numbers, it can be a little bit of a chore to try to get that light to bounce around and to the target you need, and then hit one of these targets to light it, especially when you get down to 1. But once you do that, this does light up, I believe, and you do get a lot of points for hitting that. It all resets, and you can do it again. And so it's just pretty easy to get extra balls in this table overall, and one game could actually last quite a while. But yeah, the uniqueness of this is why this is in my number 8 spot. And at number 7, I have Supersonic. The premise of this one is that there are 2 supersonic jets, one from London and one from Paris, and they are both heading to New York, and this is represented on the table by these arrows coming in. And basically what happens is that each one of these rollovers, depending on which one it is, will advance these arrows down to New or York. But on top of that, you've got spelling supersonic here, and that's done mainly with this little target up at the top. And this is good for your bonus. So at the end of, as you lose the ball, depending on how many letters in supersonic you've spelled out, increases your bonus. And that resets every ball. But these arrows don't reset every ball unless it's at New or York, which can lead to a little bit of a frustrating thing, because if you do have one of these lit at New or York, that resets at the end of the ball. So you lose the, like for example, New and York, well, if one was lit and the other one wasn't, it would reset one, and then you wind up with the flat plan closer to New York. But then that lights up this, I believe. And do you get a award for that? I'm not even paying attention to, apparently, when I was playing this. But you get some specials here, and maybe I'm just not, I don't know what's going on here in this game, to be honest. This is kind of funny. Like, what am I thinking? I just keep going for the, for this loop here. Maybe I'm just focused on spelling supersonic. But yeah, the table flows pretty well, I think. It's just the little bit of frustrating, you know, the outlanes are a little bit easy to get into there, as you saw there, but it's a little bit frustrating when you get one plane to New and one is like halfway there, and then you lose the ball, and then one resets and the other one doesn't. So that's kind of an oddity. But other than that, it's not a bad table at all. So there you go. Supersonic is at my number, what spot is it? 7? So 8, 9. Yeah, this is number 7. In my number 6 spot, I've got Circus, and this is pretty much an average table. It lays out pretty nicely. There's really nothing frustrating about this. Basically, you're just trying to spell circus. The C is over here, the I is over here, R, and then the other C is here, and then the U and the S. You spell that, and you light this hole, and I don't remember if you get an extra ball, or you probably just get an extra ball for that, but yeah, and it's easier said than done, because when you lose the ball, it resets, and you basically have to do it all in one ball. The spinners will advance this bonus here to the top. And that's pretty much it. That's all this table really has going for it. Oh yeah, when it does get up to the top, you get the double bonus. But yeah, it's just pretty simple, straightforward, and it's at my number 6 spot on the list. And at number 5, I've got Sinistar. Now this is as basic as you could get, and I love it for that. This basically features a spinner in the middle, and that's about it. Now, what I like about this is when you hit the spinner, as many times as you get the spinner to go around, it depends on the award you get. But then also you've got these 12 other targets that are all can be lit up, and they stay lit even if you lose the ball. But if you get all 12 of them lit up, and then you hit the spinner as hard as you can, you actually get either an extra ball or a really big bonus. I don't remember what. It's the special. So it's great either way. So I just love the simplicity of this table. Everything is pretty much easy to go for. Even like these targets up here, because it's not too entirely difficult to get the ball bouncing around the bumpers up here. So yeah, I just love this table for the simplicity of it all. Oh, basically you're not lighting the lights, you're getting them all out. Because I did get the special here. So actually, if we hang around for a little while, we can see what the special is. Because I do believe I got it here. Alright, we got it to the top. Yeah, it's just an extra ball. I heard it. There's no mark on the table for it, but you'd heard the click, and that is an extra ball, and everything resets, and you get to do it all again. So yeah, it's actually a nice, relaxing table to play, and that's why it's at my number 5. All right, at number 4, I've got aerobatics, and if you were to play these tables alphabetically, this would be the first one. And basically, what you're really going for in this table is there's a target here, and a target here. And when you get all 3 of those targets, you pretty much advance this from the arrow to A, and then, you know, onward and so forth. And if you could get it to the end, I believe you get a special. I'm not really 100% sure, because I don't think I've ever gotten it all the way to E, because this does reset at the end of every ball. But I do like this because the layout's, you know, pretty good. I love, you know, shooting these spinners, because one leads right to the bumpers, and sometimes that shoots right up in here, and the other one does go back up there again. What you want to try and do is get that hole at least once per ball, though, because that does make the bumpers flash, and when the bumpers flash, they are worth more points. I think maybe even 10 times the points they're normally worth. And even on the outlanes here, when you do get the outlanes, right there, you just saw what I was going to mention. Sometimes you can get the ball to bounce back into play. So you have a fighting chance even in those outlanes. So yeah, this is not a bad table at all. It's pretty fun to play, and that's why it's at my number 4. All right. At my number 3 is easily one of my favorite tables here, Woods Queen. So easy to recommend, and I'll explain why in a minute. There's basically 3 sections to this table. You've got the rollovers, you've got these row of standing targets, and then these row of drop-down targets. And basically what it is, what the deal with this table is, the longer you can keep the ball in play and the more targets you can hit, the more points they're worth. We can start with the rollovers. You get the rollovers one time, they're worth 500 points each, but you get them all, they turn red, and then they're worth 50,000 points each, which is quite a lot of points. And it's almost the same deal here for these targets here. They start out white, and they're worth 500 points each, but you hit them, you get them all, they turn red, and you hit them when they're red, and they're worth 50,000 points each. So again, nothing to sneeze at here. And then you've got the drop-down targets, and you pretty much guess it. They start out at 500 points, you get the whole row, they reset, then they're worth 5,000 points, and then they reset again, get them all, and then they're worth 50,000 points. So, but yeah, if you lose the ball, everything resets on the table, and you have to start again. So it's just a game of trying to keep the ball in play and getting as many targets as you can, and the longer it's in play, the more points things become. So that's why I really like this table. And, you know, the drains are pretty fair in this. It doesn't go on the outlanes that often. So, yeah, it's not really frustrating. And a lot of times when you lose the ball, it is your fault. And just really like Woods Queen. So that's why this is at number 3. All right, in my number 2 spot, I have Combat. And I just really like the layout of this table. First of all, you've got this array of rollovers here. And as you hit the bumpers and stuff, they alternate. And whichever ones you hit when they're lit, they're worth like 5,000 points or nothing. So see, as you hit the bumpers, that resets. This area here will make the bumpers flash, and then they're worth more points. But also this spinner gets lit for a limited amount of time. And hitting this spinner while it's lit makes it worth 1,000 per spin instead of 100 per spin, like normal. And then the other area I like here are the bombs. So if this resets per ball, but if you get the whole row of bombs, this red special gets lit. Now, while this red light is lit, these targets are then worth 10 times the points. But you could choose to ignore that and go for this target here while it's lit, and then you get an extra ball instantly. So I like that risk-reward thing, where either you could go for this target or go for the points. And if you go for the target, you get an extra ball, but if you don't and you go for these targets, you get a lot more points. And then you've got this here that I'm not really sure what causes this to increase in point value. But again, that just increases the point value of this hole, which is more difficult to hit than you would think. And then finally, like aerobatics, you've got the posts in the out lanes. So even if the ball does go in the out lanes, you have a chance of saving it. And that's why I really like this table. There's a bunch of stuff to do on this table and a lot of different strategies to take. So that's why Combat is at my number 2 for EM tables. And finally, at my number 1 spot here is Nautilus. And if you're paying attention, you might notice that this is pretty much almost exactly the same layout as Combat, with a few differences. The first difference is up here at the top. I think there might be more rollovers and the posts are gone, so the ball has a chance to kind of roll over in this area a little bit more, I think, especially with the bumper array here. Another change here are the number of targets. With Combat there were 5, but with Nautilus here there's a lot more. I think there's 8. And what the other difference here is the posts, I believe, are a little bit slightly different, so it is a little bit more difficult to rescue the ball here, so it makes this table just a little bit more difficult. But to make things easier, this section here that lights the spinner, it never times out. So as soon as you get this once, this spinner stays multiplied by 10. I think it looks like 10,000 here instead of 1,000. So it's even worth more points and if you keep the ball in play. And also, these targets are worth 10 points or 100 points when lit red. And again, if you have the option of either going for more points here or just going for the extra ball. Other than that, it's pretty much exactly the same as Combat. I just happen to like this one a little bit more. Yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to rescue the ball there as well. But yeah, that is my number 1 EM table for Zaccaria Pinball. And there you go. There's my top 10 for Zaccaria Electro-Mechanical tables. And even though this was a top 10, there were only 4 left out. So I talked about those as well. And that wraps it up for the EM tables. Next, I'll be working on the remake tables, and that might take me a bit longer to do because there are 27 of those, and I'll probably have to play them a bit longer than either the solid state or the EM tables, just because they're a little bit more involved, and it has been a while since I played them, so I will have to play them all again. And I'll sort them out. I'll pick out my top 10 and I will make a video for that as well. So stay tuned for that. And if you did like this video, do give it a thumbs up. And we'll see you next time. Bye.